When you talk about giving it your all, the very first thing that needs to be addressed is clarity of vision. You cannot fully commit yourself to something vague or undefined. Imagine someone setting out on a journey without a map, without even knowing the destination. They may walk, they may sweat, they may push themselves forward, but where are they going? They end up exhausted, frustrated, and still lost. That's the reality for most people. They're working hard, but not with clarity. To give your all, you need to first know exactly what you are giving yourself to. A vision is not just a wish or a daydream. It is a clear, vivid picture of what you want your life to look like, what you want to achieve, and who you want to become. The sharper that image becomes in your mind, the more energy you naturally direct toward it. A scattered mind produces scattered results, but a focused mind moves mountains. When you form that vision, something powerful happens. You start aligning your thoughts, your actions, and even your environment with it. It's like focusing sunlight through a magnifying glass. When it's spread across the sky, the sun can warm you. But when it's focused through a small lens, it can set fire to wood. That's the difference between a vague desire and a person with crystal clear vision. The one with clarity channels their energy in a way that creates results. Most people say they want success, but when you ask them what that means for them specifically, they can't answer. They're chasing a shadow of an idea, not a real vision. And so they end up stopping, quitting, or wandering off the path. Giving it your all is impossible in that state because you can't give your energy to something you can't see. Clarity brings a sense of direction. It eliminates confusion and hesitation. Think about it. When you're clear on where you're headed, every step has meaning. Even the smallest action, even the tasks that seem boring or insignificant, carry purpose because you know they're moving you toward something you truly desire. Without clarity, those same tasks feel like burdens. People procrastinate not because they are lazy, but because they don't see the connection between their actions and their future. They lack the burning image of where those actions will lead them. But when the vision is clear, procrastination dissolves, distractions lose their power, and commitment becomes natural. There's also a psychological shift that comes with clarity. The human mind loves certainty, and when you give it a definite picture, it starts working like a magnet, pulling in ideas, resources, and people to match that vision. This is not magic, it's alignment. Your subconscious mind begins to filter opportunities differently. You suddenly notice things you never paid attention to before. You start saying no to things that don't fit and yes to things that align because the vision gives you criteria to measure everything against. That's why clarity is not optional, it's foundational. You can't give your all without it. Now, clarity does not mean you need to know every single detail of the how. Too many people get stuck trying to figure out every step before they begin, and that's another form of fear disguised as preparation. Clarity is about the end, not necessarily the path. The path reveals itself as you move forward. If you wait until you know every step, you'll wait forever. But if you lock your focus on the result you want with absolute clarity, you can give your all to the process, trusting that the steps will appear as you move. It's like driving at night with your headlights on. You can't see the entire highway, but you can see enough to move forward. And the further you go, the more of the road is revealed. Clarity also demands honesty with yourself. Too many people pursue goals that don't belong to them. They take on society's definition of success, or they chase dreams that were handed to them by parents, friends, or cultural expectations. They run fast, but it's on the wrong track. They burn out because they're not fueled by genuine desire. To give your all, the vision has to be yours, born from your own heart and mind. It must excite you, stir something inside you, and make you feel alive when you think about it. That's how you know it's your vision and not someone else's. When it's truly yours, giving your all stops feeling like sacrifice and starts feeling like expression. It becomes natural to pour yourself into it because it reflects who you are at the deepest level. Clarity brings power. When you know exactly what you want, you stop wasting energy on what doesn't matter. Every no becomes easier to say because you have a bigger yes guiding you. Every distraction loses its grip because it pales in comparison to your vision. People around you notice it too. They may not even understand why, but they feel the energy of someone with clarity. There's a confidence, a certainty, a calm determination that radiates from such a person. That's why clarity not only drives your actions, but also influences the way others respond to you. Without clarity, you're like a ship tossed on the waves, going wherever the current pushes. With clarity, you're the captain steering toward a chosen destination. The storms may come, the winds may blow, but you know where you're headed, and that makes all the difference. You may get delayed, but you won't get lost. You might get challenged, but you won't get confused. The vision becomes your anchor and your compass. It reminds you why you started and keeps you moving when the road feels long. And in that state, Giving it your all doesn't just become possible, it becomes inevitable. The moment of decision is one of the most powerful forces in a person's life. Nothing truly begins until a decision is made. People often confuse wishing with deciding, but they are not the same. A wish is passive, it is hopeful, it is something you think about when the conditions are perfect. A decision is active, it is final, and it carries weight. It says, this is what I am going to do, regardless of how I feel, regardless of what obstacles appear, regardless of what anyone else thinks. The power of decision changes everything because it channels your energy in a single direction. Most people never give their all because they never make a real decision. They keep the door open for excuses, for alternatives, for retreat. And so they remain stuck in hesitation. When a decision is made, the energy shifts instantly. You've felt this before in your own life. Think about a time when you were uncertain about something, going back and forth in your mind, questioning yourself, weighing options. That period is draining. The indecision steals your energy. But the second you choose, the second you decide with certainty, there is relief, there is focus, and there is movement. Suddenly, resources you didn't even know you had begin to show up. Ideas flow more easily. People appear to help. Why? Because decision acts as a signal to both your mind and the world around you. It says you are no longer interested in alternatives. You are locked in. That mental posture changes everything. The greatest achievers in history were not necessarily the smartest, the wealthiest, or the most talented at the beginning. What separated them was their ability to decide. They didn't leave room for maybes or someday. They drew a line in the sand and said, this is it. I am doing this. That kind of decision creates momentum because it removes doubt. Doubt divides energy, and divided energy never produces power. Decision concentrates energy, and concentrated energy can cut through resistance like a blade. The truth is, many people live in a half-committed state. They want success, but they don't decide on it. They want freedom, but they don't decide on it. They want change, but they keep a foot in the old life just in case. And so they never experience the full power of what's possible because their energy is split. Giving your all is impossible until you decide. A decision closes the back door. It shuts down the exit routes. It leaves you with only one path forward. That's where true commitment begins. There is a fear that comes with decision because once you decide, you eliminate the comfort of options. You can no longer hide behind, maybe later, or I'll try. You've burned the bridge behind you. That can be intimidating, but it is also liberating. It frees you from the endless loop of analysis. It frees you from hesitation. It frees you from the trap of waiting for the perfect time. Decisions are not made when the circumstances are ideal. They are made when you decide the circumstances will no longer control you. It is important to understand that decision is not about knowing how everything will work out. This is where people get trapped. They say, I can't decide because I don't know how. But the how is never clear at the beginning. The path unfolds after the decision. The decision comes first. The way forward comes second. When you truly decide, you activate creativity, persistence, and resourcefulness that otherwise stay dormant. Most people wait for those qualities to appear before they decide, but they only appear because of the decision. Look at your own life. Every significant change you've ever made, whether it was in your career, your health, your relationships, started with a decision. Not a half-hearted intention, but a real moment of choice. That choice shifted your mindset, your actions, and eventually your results. Without it, nothing would have happened. Giving your all is not about waiting for motivation to show up or for conditions to improve. It is about making a firm decision that this is the path you will walk and then aligning every part of yourself with that choice. Decision also brings identity with it. When you decide, you begin to see yourself differently. You are no longer the person who is trying or thinking about it. You become the person who had chosen. That identity changes your behavior, your habits, and even the way others perceive you. People respect decision makers because they radiate certainty. They stand out in a world full of hesitation. Certainty is magnetic. And when you decide, you attract opportunities and people who resonate with that energy. The interesting thing is that indecision costs more than a wrong decision. A wrong decision at least creates movement, and movement can be corrected. Indecision creates stagnation, and stagnation kills potential. Giving it your all demands that you step out of that paralysis and choose, even if the path is unclear, even if the risks are real, even if the fear whispers in your ear. The act of deciding breaks the chains and sets you into motion. Once you're in motion, you can adjust, you can adapt, but without decision, you remain frozen, stuck in the realm of what if. The power of decision is not something to be underestimated. It is the dividing line between a life of drifting and a life of purpose. Those who master decision live with intensity because they are all in. They do not spread themselves thin across countless maybes. They channel their full energy into a single direction. And that focus produces results. Decision is not just about action. It is about ownership. It says, this is mine. I claim it. I commit to it. And in that moment, you unleash the potential to give your all in a way that half-hearted wishes never could. Burning the bridges behind you is a principle that has carried people from ordinary circumstances into extraordinary achievements. It is about removing every option that allows you to retreat back into comfort when the journey gets hard. Too often people begin with enthusiasm, but keep an escape plan tucked away in their mind. They say they want to succeed, but deep down they've left themselves room to quit if it becomes too uncomfortable. That safety net may feel secure, but it quietly robs them of the intensity required to win. The human spirit rises to its highest potential only when there is no way back, when the only direction left is forward. When you keep the bridges intact, you weaken your commitment without even realizing it. You may start strong, but at the first sign of resistance, the thought of retreat whispers in your mind. You tell yourself, if it doesn't work out, I can always go back. That thought, innocent as it may seem, drains your determination. It steals your focus. It creates hesitation where there should be resolve. But when you burn the bridges, you eliminate that whisper completely. You send a message to yourself that retreat is not an option. It is forward or nothing. That level of commitment ignites a fire inside you that half-hearted effort can never produce. History is full of examples where this principle changed the outcome of battles, businesses, and lives. Generals in ancient times would burn the ships upon arrival to foreign lands, leaving their armies with no choice but to fight and win. There was no returning home unless victory was secured. That desperate clarity created courage and intensity. In modern life, the same principle applies. When someone removes the possibility of going back to an old job, an old lifestyle, or an old comfort zone, they suddenly discover strength, creativity, and resilience they never knew they had. The human mind becomes remarkably resourceful when it knows there is no alternative. Burning the bridges behind you is not recklessness, it is commitment. It does not mean acting without thought or blindly throwing yourself in something unprepared. It means making a conscious choice that once you begin, you will not quit. It means you stop entertaining excuses. You stop holding on to backup plans that weaken your focus, and you fully embrace the discomfort of the unknown because you know it's the only path to growth. Growth never comes in the comfort zone. It comes in the moments when you have no choice but to stretch beyond what you've done before. There is something about necessity that awakens hidden potential. When people know they can fall back, they rarely give their best. But when they know there is no falling back, only moving forward, they tap into levels of energy and persistence that surprise even themselves. The mind sharpens, the heart strengthens, the body endures, all because the bridges were burned and the only way out is through. That is what it means to give your all. You cut off the escape routes and pour everything you have into making your vision work. This principle also tests how badly you want what you claim to want. Many talk about success, but when it requires sacrifice, they slip back into comfort. Burning the bridges forces you to prove to yourself that your desire is real. You cannot cling to your old habits, your old excuses, or your old identity while also trying to step into a new life. Those old patterns are the bridges that keep you tied to the past. To step into the new, you must destroy those links. You must be willing to leave behind what no longer serves you. That act alone transforms you because it creates space for the new version of yourself to emerge. There is always fear in burning the bridges because it strips away the illusion of safety. But that fear is exactly what makes the decision powerful. When you face the uncertainty head on and commit to moving forward regardless, you build courage. You discover that fear loses its grip the moment you stop giving it power. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward in spite of it. Burning the bridges teaches you courage in the purest form because it demands action without the comfort of turning back. Most people underestimate what they are capable of because they have never been in a situation where giving less than everything was not an option. They always had a back door, so they never saw how powerful they could be when their whole being was invested in one path. Burning the bridges is how you discover that side of yourself. It is how you access the strength, creativity, and determination that only surface under pressure. When there is no safety net, you become the net. You catch yourself by pushing harder, thinking sharper, and enduring longer. In life, you will always be presented with the choice. Keep the bridges intact or burn them. Keeping them intact feels safe, but it keeps you divided half in and half out. Burning them feels terrifying, but it gives you unity of purpose. It channels your focus. It awakens your spirit, and it forces you to step fully into the life you say you want. It is a commitment not just to a goal, but to yourself. to the belief that you will not turn back, you will not settle, and you will not retreat when things get hard. It is the bold act of saying, this is the only way, and I will give it everything I have. Discipline is the cornerstone of giving your all, because motivation alone cannot carry you through the seasons of struggle. Motivation is a spark. It feels good, it excites you, and it can get you moving in the beginning, but it fades quickly, and when it does, many people stop. Discipline is what keeps you moving long after the spark is gone. Discipline is the decision to show up, to act, to push forward, not because you feel like it, but because you said you would. It transforms effort from something emotional into something habitual. When discipline is in place, consistency becomes natural, and consistency is the true force behind extraordinary results. When people rely on motivation, they live in cycles of starting and stopping. They wait until they feel ready, and when that emotional high disappears, so does their effort. This is why so many people set goals, feel excited for a week or two, and then fall back into old patterns. They mistake motivation for commitment. The truth is, you will not always feel like putting in the work. You will not always feel like training, studying, building, or grinding. Some days you will wake up tired, distracted, or frustrated. Discipline is what makes you move in those moments. It makes your actions independent of your feelings. That is the mark of someone who is giving their all, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's not. Discipline creates habits, and habits create identity. Every time you act with discipline, you reinforce the image of yourself as someone who follows through. Over time, this builds self-respect, and that self-respect becomes fuel. When you break promises to yourself, your confidence erodes. When you keep promises to yourself, even small ones, your confidence strengthens. That is why discipline is so powerful. It is not only about completing tasks, it is about building character. You begin to trust yourself deeply because you know you will do what you said you would do. That trust is priceless because it becomes the foundation for bolder goals and bigger dreams. Another truth about discipline is that it protects you from the distractions and temptations that constantly pull at your attention. In a world filled with endless entertainment, instant gratification, and quick escapes, it is easy to drift. Discipline acts like a compass that points you back to your vision. It helps you say no when everything around you is screaming yes. It allows you to prioritize what matters most over what feels good in the moment. This isn't about deprivation, it's about alignment. Discipline ensures that your daily actions are aligned with the bigger picture you want to create. Without it, you scatter your energy, and scattered energy never produces powerful results. Discipline is also about structure. Success is not random. It is the result of patterns and systems. When you set routines, when you create consistent habits, you reduce the friction of decision making. You no longer waste mental energy on whether or not you'll do something. You just do it because it's part of who you are. This frees up focus for creativity and problem solving instead of constant negotiation with yourself. That structure may feel rigid at first, but over time it creates freedom. Freedom to live with clarity. Freedom to pursue your goals without the chaos of inconsistency. Freedom to know that your future is secure because your actions are stable. The deeper beauty of discipline is that it sharpens your resilience. Life will throw obstacles, setbacks, and delays your way. Motivation crumbles under those pressures, but discipline endures. Discipline says, I will keep showing up. It makes you stronger because every time you face resistance and push through, you grow. Each repetition builds endurance. Each act of self-control builds inner power. And over time, discipline becomes less about forcing yourself and more about embodying the kind of person who doesn't quit. It becomes natural, like breathing. What many people fail to see is that discipline is not punishment. It is liberation. Without discipline, you become a slave to moods, impulses, and circumstances. With discipline, you are free to design your life, free to rise above temporary feelings, free to direct your energy where it matters most. Discipline is the tool that allows you to close the gap between intention and execution. It bridges the space between wanting something and actually achieving it. Everyone wants, but only the disciplined receive. Discipline is also contagious. When you live with it, others around you notice. They see the consistency, the order, the strength, and it inspires them. Discipline creates respect because people recognize the rarity of someone who sticks to their word in a world full of broken promises. And while others may admire from a distance, it is you who reaps the true reward because discipline builds a life of progress, momentum, and achievement. There will always be a part of you that resists discipline, that wants the easier path, that whispers excuses. But every time you override that voice, you grow strong and that voice grows weaker. Discipline is not about perfection. It is about persistence. It is about deciding again and again, no matter how many times you stumble, that you will keep moving. That persistence compounds. It turns small daily efforts into extraordinary long-term outcomes. It transforms ordinary people into extraordinary examples of what is possible when someone decides to give their all consistently, not just occasionally. Resistance is one of the greatest forces you will ever face when you decide to give it your all. It doesn't come from the outside world first. It comes from within. The human mind is designed to protect you from discomfort. And so the moment you set out to do something that stretches you, something that pulls you beyond what you've done before, the resistance rises. It whispers doubts. It magnifies fears. It creates endless excuses that sound logical, even reasonable. It tells you to wait until the timing is better, to prepare just a little longer, to take it easy because you've already done enough. This is the battle that stops most people, not the obstacles in the outside world, but the internal voice that convinces them to quit before they even begin. Overcoming resistance is about understanding that this voice is not truth. It is simply the mind's attempt to keep you safe. Safe in your routines, safe in your comfort zone, safe in what you already know. But safety is the enemy of growth. If you are always safe, you are never expanding. Resistance is the sign that you are on the edge of growth. It means you are stepping into territory that your mind is not familiar with, and that is exactly where you need to be if you want to live at a higher level. Instead of running from resistance, you must learn to expect it, even welcome it, because it confirms that you are moving in the right direction. The excuses resistance creates are clever. They don't scream at you. They whisper softly so that you believe them. They say things like, "You're too tired today. Start fresh tomorrow." Or, "You don't have enough knowledge yet. Just wait a little longer." Or, "What if you fail and embarrass yourself?" These thoughts are not random. They are calculated to protect your ego, to protect your comfort, to protect the identity you've built up to this point. But giving it your all requires that you outgrow that identity. It requires you to face the discomfort, acknowledge the fear, and act anyway. That's where the power is, acting in spite of resistance, not waiting for it to disappear. Every person who has ever achieved anything meaningful has fought resistance daily. Writers stare at blank pages. Athletes wake up to sore bodies. Entrepreneurs face the fear of losing money. Leaders face criticism. The resistance never goes away completely, but they learn how to push through it. They learn that if they wait until they feel ready, they will wait forever. Readiness is a myth. Growth comes when you do the work, while resistance is present. Each time you take action in the face of it, you weaken its grip. Each time you choose progress over comfort, you train your mind to serve you instead of control you. Overcoming resistance also means becoming aware of your patterns. Resistance often shows up in predictable ways. It might be procrastination, distraction, perfectionism, or sudden bursts of doubt. The moment you recognize the pattern, you strip it of power. You stop identifying with it as who you are and start seeing it as a force you can manage. For example, if you know procrastination is your form of resistance, you can build systems that make starting easier. If you know distraction is your weakness, you can create environments that remove temptation. Awareness gives you leverage, and leverage gives you control. There is also a physical side to resistance. The body resists discomfort too. It tells you to stop when you push past your limits in training, to rest when you are close to breaking through, to quit when things get hard. But the body, like the mind, adapts when you push it. It becomes stronger, more resilient, more capable. That's the paradox of resistance. It feels like a wall, but when you push against it, you realize it was only a door waiting for you to step through. The discomfort is temporary, but the strength you gain is permanent. One of the most important truths about resistance is that it never shows up when you are doing something easy, something meaningless, something safe. It only appears when you are aiming higher, when you are challenging yourself, when you are on the path of growth. That means every time you feel resistance, it is proof that you are reaching beyond ordinary. It is proof that you are chasing something that matters. Instead of letting it discourage you, let it encourage you. Let it remind you that you are in the arena, not sitting on the sidelines. Overcoming resistance requires discipline, but it also requires vision. When your vision is clear, resistance has less power. You can look beyond the discomfort and focus on where you're going. You can remind yourself why you started, why it matters, why you cannot stop here. The clearer the vision, the weaker the excuses become, because they cannot compete with a purpose that is alive inside you. Resistance thrives in vague goals, but it loses strength when faced with a definite purpose. Resistance will test you, but in that test lies the chance to build resilience. Every time you overcome it, you become stronger mentally, emotionally, and physically. You begin to trust yourself more deeply because you know you can handle the discomfort. That trust creates confidence, and confidence fuels momentum. This cycle, repeated over and over, is how ordinary effort transforms into extraordinary achievement. Resistance may never disappear entirely, but you learn to carry it, to walk with it, and to rise above it. And in that process, you discover that the greatest battle was never with the world outside. It was always within. Living with no regrets is one of the deepest rewards of giving it your all. Because at the end of everything, it's not the failures that haunt people. It's the chances they never took, the effort they never gave, the dreams they never pursued. Regret is heavier than failure. Failure stings in the moment, but it passes, and from it comes growth, wisdom, and resilience. Regret, on the other hand, lingers quietly in the background of a person's life, whispering, what if, and if only. The pain of looking back and realizing you could have done more, you could have tried harder, you could have gone further, is far greater than the pain of falling short after giving everything. That's why living without regrets means pouring yourself fully into the opportunities of today, leaving no space for the haunting weight of, I wish I had. Most people underestimate how quickly time passes. They assume they will have endless chances, that someday they'll find the courage. Someday they'll commit, someday they'll start. But someday often turns into never. Days slip into weeks, weeks into years, and before they realize it, opportunities have passed, doors have closed, and the energy of youth or the momentum of the moment is gone. Giving your all is about refusing to push your life into the land of someday. It is about choosing now, showing up fully now, so that when you look back, you can say with confidence that you left nothing undone. Living with no regrets is also about the kind of person you become in the process. You may not always win. You may not always hit the exact goal you aim for. But you grow, you stretch, you evolve into someone who knows what it feels like to live fully engaged. That experience alone is priceless. People who hold back, who play small, who live cautiously, never get to feel that aliveness. They trade vitality for safety, and safety eventually turns into stagnation. Regret comes not from trying and failing, but from never truly knowing what you were capable of, because you didn't try with everything inside you. There's also the truth that life itself is unpredictable. None of us knows how much time we have. None of us knows how many chances we'll get. To hold back, to hesitate, to wait for the perfect moment is to gamble with something you cannot control. Living with no regrets is about recognizing the value of time and refusing to waste it on hesitation, fear, or doubt. It means living in such a way that if tomorrow never came, you would not be tormented by the thought that you didn't give yourself to the things that mattered most. When you give it your all, you create memories that strengthen you instead of weaken you. Even if you fall short, you carry with you the pride of knowing you tried. That pride becomes a shield against regret. Think of someone who dared to build a business, pursue a passion, or fight for a dream. Even if they stumble, they carry stories of courage, resilience, and lessons that shape them for the rest of their lives. Compare that to someone who never tried because they were afraid to fail. They carry nothing but silence, and in that silence, regret grows. Living with no regrets is also about relationships, not just achievements. Too many people hold back love, hold back forgiveness, hold back words they want to say because of pride or fear. Later, when the chance is gone, they wish they had spoken. They wish they had given more of themselves to the people who matter. Giving your all applies not only to your goals, but also to the way you show up in the lives of others. Expressing yourself fully, giving generously, living authentically. These are the choices that keep regret from settling in your heart. Another layer of this truth is that regret often disguises itself as comfort in the present. You skip the hard work today because it feels easier. You avoid the risk because it feels safer. You choose distraction over discipline because it feels lighter. But that short-term comfort becomes long-term regret. The opposite is also true. The short-term discomfort of effort becomes the long-term satisfaction of pride. When you give it your all now, you create a future where you can look back without bitterness, knowing the discomfort you endured was worth the freedom and fulfillment you earned. Living without regrets does not mean you won't make mistakes. Mistakes are inevitable, but regrets are optional. Mistakes become wisdom when you give your best effort because you learn from them and carry those lessons forward. Regret comes from never putting yourself in a position to make those mistakes in the first place. It comes from standing on the sidelines while life passes you by. The person who tries and fails lives, rich than the person who never tries at all, because they have tested life, they have stretched, they have discovered who they are. At the end of your days, when you reflect on your life, the question will not be how perfectly you executed your plans, but whether you lived fully. Did you give your heart, your energy, your time, your gifts, your presence? Did you step into opportunities, or did you shrink back? Did you take the risk that called to you, or did you bury your desires under excuses? Living with no regrets is about ensuring those answers bring peace instead of pain. It is about living in such a way that you leave nothing on the table, that you exhaust your potential in the pursuit of what matters most, that you can look back without wondering what might have been.